In this next fake news article from the Bologna Broadcasting Company, how COVID-19 myths are merging with QAnon conspiracy theories, online and in real-life demonstrations, two viral conspiracies are increasingly coming together. On one hand, you have QAnon, which says that there might be some cartel and human drug traffickers who've paid off our politicians. This got translated into it's a satanic cult of pedophiles. But in reality, it's probably just more like they're engaging in some drug trafficking, and then they have a human trafficking network, and then they're engaging in sex with girls who are underage. And then they have got blackmail. But they say Trump is waging a secret war against Satan-worshipping elite pedophiles. Don't know what to say about that. Are they worshiping Satan? Yes, no. Comment below. Or at realsimplenews.net/issue98 for the show. On the other hand, you have a swirling mass of pseudoscience claiming that coronavirus does not exist, that it's not fatal, or that the numbers are on baseless claims. We just went over that the numbers aren't on baseless claims. This is why they're called the Bologna Broadcasting Company, because they can't do math and figure this shit out themselves. It's got to be some indie dude up on the Real News, Real Simple News with Kale McCullough on Friday, September 4th, 2020. Find us at realsimplenews.net/issue98. So they want you to think that there's no way, possibly, that there's any cartels and human trafficking networks that have blackmailed some politicians, because they're pedophiles who are covering up a human trafficking network with a cartel. And they don't want you to stop that because they want to use the hooker network. Right? Maybe they're not pedophiles. All right. Maybe they're they don't want you to bust the pedophiles just because it might be them. So that's why they got to shut you down. Can't have no free speech. Can't believe that there's cartels who have armies. Like this video that we watched earlier of the El Muncho? His cartel army? You see that the drug cartels have vast, huge armies.
¡Pura gente del señor Mencho! ¡Pura gente del señor Mencho! ¡Pura gente del señor Mencho! ¡Pura gente! ¡Arriba el señor de los gallos! ¡Arriba el señor Mencho! ¡Pura gente del señor Mencho! ¡Arriba el señor Mencho! ¡Arriba el señor Mencho! ¡Arriba de los gallos! ¡Pura Grupo Lee! ¡Pura Grupo Lee!
I don't know about you, but this is terrifying as a pasty white boy. Like, I mean, I'm looking at all these girls like, oh my god, I am not stepping to these dudes. I am so not stepping. What is this, United Cartels now or something? I mean, that guy's walking pretty fast. You gotta admit, he actually covered a lot of cars there in a very short period of time. That's terrifying. It's kind of crazy to think that there wouldn't be any cartels that have been paying off our politicians, and that they could have a hooker network because they're like politicians who are at work all day, and then they go use a hooker, and then they have to deal with these people, and then they got blackmailed. So, is it a baseless conspiracy theory? It's not, obviously not baseless. There's no evidence to support the allegations, but it's not baseless in any way, shape, or form. We got evidence right here. All right. Same amount of people from the CDC's number will die. This year's died in 2017. Our population's grown. So obviously there's some holes in this story, and it's because they're absolutely not giving you the real news. They're giving you the fake news from Fake News Fauci. The people who are afraid. This is what you never follow a liberal into battle, because the liberal will tuck tail and they will run, and then you'll lose because your people deserted. And once they see the leader tucking tail, the men will probably also follow. So you have to follow strong people into battle, ones that aren't going to be afraid when they see the battle coming. And so this is why we got to get Fake News Fauci out, because he's lost credibility. Got to explain this shit here. I'm not making it up. You can go look at the CDC. You can see clearly by these estimates, less people will have died in 2020 than in 2017. You're like, oh, hey, all right. I mean, so maybe are we saying that we saved like a number of people's lives in the pandemic just from limiting everything? It's like, I don't know, man. It seems to me like the world probably could use restructuring. Definitely would agree. It's not perfect. We could do a lot better. I think the lockdown helped with that. I think it helped restructure our economy, made a lot of people very poor, made race riots all over the country, from the black looter mobs, burning, looting, and murdering all around the country, in Democrat race riots funded from scam donations off GoFundMe, Fundly, MoveOn.org, with George Soros, and Change.org. Because everybody wants a piece of them scam donations, dude. Everybody. Dude, I mean, seriously, you'd probably get like 90+% of people. If you could actually have a real scam donation and just says this is just a scam donation and people could still give it to you, you'd probably get like 90% of people trying to get scam donations. So, I mean, you can't blame all of these black looter mobs for trying to get all of these millions of dollars in scam BLM donations, because you would do it too if you could get millions of dollars in scam donations. But people think, oh, I'm helping black people out. You criticize black looter mobs, and you're criticizing black people because BLM is black people. So you can't criticize them. If you do, you're racist. You're racist now. And so then they get away with whatever they want to get away with, because you can't stand against them, because the workplace is institutionally anti-racist because of like Civil Rights Act in the United States. And because of this, they have to, because they've already won civil rights for African Americans, but they can't just like give up the fight. They have to use the same enemy, the same divisive politics, because they're the ones that work. You can't make up new ones because they have a high probability chance of not working. You have to use the ones that have been working. And once you realize that this is actually how Democrats actually behave, you will see that they aren't a very good political party. That this stuff is pervasive in their party. They're extremely corrupt. And they want to label all this stuff. It's also, too, in Europe, there are also, too, all these like wingnut Europeans. They believe all this fake news from the Bologna Broadcasting Company, Daily Fake Mail, the Guardian of fake news. And they just slur people as far right. Anybody that they don't agree with, like, you're far right. And then if you go over to Europe and you ask people where this definition of far right came from, they'll say it came from America. And then you go over to America, you're like, where did this definition of far right that they're using from, that's a slur for everybody, come from? They'll be like, it's a European term. You're like, okay. Well, obviously the term came from Wikipedia. Because it always used to mean farthest left means the flat social hierarchies, the Antifa, the communists. Those are far leftists. Antifa is a far leftist group. They have always been a far leftist group. And then you have on the farthest right your steepest social hierarchies, where you got fascism and Nazism at the top of the most savage, brutal, genocidal maniac power structure that you can come up with. And then in between, you have a spectrum of socialism, and then it's not the same as capitalism. So, like, people in capitalist societies, like, we think that left is liberal and that the right is the conservative power structure with that supports free speech, constitution, limited government. So when you go farther to the right in America, you go to a smaller government. So these people are trying to say that, like, QAnon is a far right conspiracy theory. And then it's like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, you look up the word of far right on Wikipedia, and it's like, it doesn't fit anything. Here's the definition of it on Wikipedia. Crazy fake news central. You'll see it's supposed to. It says far right politics are politics further on the right of the left-right spectrum and the standard political right, particularly in terms of extreme nationalism, nativist ideologies, or authoritarian tendencies. So if you're a small government conservative, then you would be quote-unquote far right to these people. If you believe in patriotism, then that makes you like a Nazi. Or if you believe that the native Hawaiians should be given priority so that the tourists don't wipe them off the face of the planet, that makes you a Nazi. They don't make sense. None of it makes sense because they switched the term. So historically used to describe experiences of fascism and Nazism. Today, far-right politics includes neo-fascism, neo-Nazism, third position, alt-right, white supremacy, white nationalism, other ideologies or organizations features ultra-nationalistic, chauvinistic, which is like patriotic, xenophobic, theocratic, so the Israelis, the Jews, they're far-right, they're like Nazis, racist, homophobic, transphobic, anti-communist, so if you're against communism, then that makes you far right. And reactionary views, so you got the catch-all at the end. You're like, if you can't catch them with any of these, you can say, "Oh, you're You want you want immigration restrictions because you think that white people got low birth rate, and so that makes you a nativist. And then you're far right, means you're Nazi, and then people go nuts. They're like, okay, they don't know what nativist means. They're like, okay, if I support Hawaiians, then I'm a nativist because I think that the Hawaiians should have preference in their land because they are going to get wiped out if they don't. And so how does that make me far right? How does it make me far right if I think 56% of illegal immigrants are from Mexico, which they are, and then there's 20 illegal immigrants per homeless person on the street, and they're banging cartel dope they're getting from illegal immigrants. How does that make you far right if you want to enforce your immigration policy? To these people, it makes them far right because they think you're nativist. And then, so it's like people, almost anybody in America could fit into one of these piles here. Because they say, oh, now it's not just people on the far right of the left-right spectrum. It's anybody that has aspects of any of these crazy large groups of people. And then if you believe any of these beliefs, you cannot believe them in public. They have to ban them from the clear web, and they have to put them on the intellectual dark web, where I found them. And then you realize that these people are just a bunch of bozos. They're seriously bozo. And that's why everything they believe is just based on a lie. That they're getting all this fake news from Wikipedia. And they think that anybody who is standing up against corruption, pedophilia, and against mass police, that you must mean then like a Nazi. Because in Cuckoo Town, nothing makes sense. Everything is fake news in Cuckoo Town.